All right. It's time to talk about poverty. We got about a half hour left. Almost exactly. So, this is a topic that I wanted to get to regarding our little conversation with Ungovernable, who has like no understanding of how poverty works in the United States. So let me see if I can answer a thing. The upward trajectory of somebody in poverty living in an impoverished area, acknowledging that they could, under very specific and unlikely circumstances, like nearly fundamentally broken chances of achieving, could achieve even a stable housing situation, stable living situation, is just... We need to have a better understanding of what keeps people in poverty, why people are in poverty, what caused this. Why did a pandemic cause so many people so much pain? To where even the richest among, and yes, the problem is capitalism, of course, but it's an overall problem. But within the system that we live, you're talking to normies. You can't just say capitalism. You got to speak to where they're at. So let's try that. Let's try that real quick. It is capitalism, but we can't get people there. Just like how my conversation with Ungovernable could not even begin to start at why healthcare was a right, because of his fundamental misunderstandings of how poverty works in this country, how it's a giant black hole, and we are in an endless race to the bottom in this country for the majority of the people within it. We can't begin talking to normies about capitalism until they understand what poverty is, and it's not blaming your neighbor or the Mexicans who come in for why you're in the position you're in. You have to start with a fundamental understanding that the system is running as it should be. Now, in my English class, in regards to the debate, which will be either posted today or tomorrow, depending on when I have time to work on the editing for it and finally get it up and do all the tags and all the bullshit on YouTube. Don't worry. Follow me on Twitter for announcements when that happens. Just, I blame the Mexicans for being fat. Tacos are just so good. Tacos are good. But don't worry, that's all Americanized now, so we can't really blame them for that either. Weird how that keeps working. Yeah. So, in my case, it kind of is actually my neighbor, that being my only land neighbor nationally is US. I mean, yeah, that's a different thing entirely. That gets into the global effects of capitalism. When we're talking to normies, we can't start at, it's capitalism. We have to start with something is fundamentally broken, and it's not the fact, it's not the people you say you're competing with. You're not actually in any sort of competition with your neighbor. You're told you are. And that's to suppress worker solidarity. We're all in this together. Even if we don't like each other. That coworker that you hate who's getting paid the same as you? Yeah, sure, you don't like them. Don't party with them. But when push comes to shove, have solidarity with them. We're all here. Shit, I can't even fill my sub goal. Chill harder.
Most people are not super wealthy. But we all have an idea of what it might be like to be a wealthy person. We watch them on TV, we follow them on Instagram, we read their blogs and autobiographies. Unfortunately, that awareness of how the other half lives doesn't happen much in the other direction.
Keep in mind, this is going to wind up very Libby, but
Though many of us have probably described ourselves as broke or poor at one point or another, very few have an understanding of what real poverty feels like.
And it's not just a matter of having less money. Once you get below a certain threshold,
Volume.
a whole
all right.
new set of rules apply
There you
that
go.
actually make
Competition would start
day-to-day life
kicking in.
more expensive. If you've never struggled with real poverty, you might not be aware of the many hidden costs and financial traps that conspire to keep
As do I, Jamie. It's good to see you.
poor people poor.
I got 4 on it. 5 on it.
It's very hard to make your way through modern life without access to basic financial services like checking accounts, ATMs, and personal checks. But the less money you have, the more these things will cost you. That's because banks make their profits by accruing interest on your money. So if your account balance is too low, usually under $1,500, they won't consider you a profitable client anymore, and they'll make you pay for their basic services in the form of a
Hey, Sydney, Kaiser, Sam the Nannerman, why not Octavius and Ungovernable? Enjoy those gift subs from Quiet One. Amazing. You're absolutely beautiful.
fee.
And heaven help you if you go below zero.
I got
Each
5 on
overdraft
it.
incurs a charge of about $35, and many banks will deliberately reorder your transactions for the day, from biggest to smallest, to drive you into the red more quickly and rack up as many overdraft fees as possible.
Yep. And that's why I'm in the position that I'm in, partially. Large reason.
If a bank is willing to extend you credit at all, the terms will be much less favorable than for someone with a rosier financial history. You'll pay more money in interest every month, and any late payments means more penalties and fees.
Even cash can be more expensive if you don't have much of it. If you withdraw $100 from an out-of-network ATM, that $3 fee equates to a 3% service charge. But if you can only afford to take out $20 at a time, you're essentially paying a 15% charge to access your own money.
Taken together, this means that a poor person might end up paying hundreds or thousands of dollars a year for services that wealthier people virtually enjoy for free. It's no wonder then that a lot of low-income people avoid banks altogether. But even that comes at a steep price. Cashing a paycheck without a bank account costs money. Buying a money order to pay your electric bill costs money. And if that bill is due in just a couple days, well, you can either get hit with a late fee or FedEx it, an extra expense that someone with a debit card and an internet connection never has to worry about.
If you think that dealing with credit cards
Not to mention they can set up an auto pay account, meaning that whenever the bill's due, it just comes out. And they don't think twice about it because they know they'll always have money. They know how much money they have at any time period. They don't have to suffer from any sort of hidden fee or any sort of hidden expense because it's accounted for. They don't have to pay. You think rich people pay late fees? Do you think they pay overdraft fees? Nah. Let me give you an instance. So I've struggled a lot financially over the past couple of years for a number of various reasons, none of which are actually the fault of anything we've done, but more so we've been subject to things like health issues, mental health issues. We had a baby. This, that, and the other. So I had signed up for a website that you pay them yearly to negotiate with your bank to get fees back. They don't even pay interest. No, they accrue interest. They literally get towards their bank account what we pay for. just since I've started this whole thing, because they track your fees. So I started this roughly July, I believe. Yeah, around July. June or July. Since then, I have accrued and this is me and my family on one account. $2,158.85 worth of fees, mostly overdraft fees, from my bank. My bank allows once a year for 2 overdraft fees to be returned. So, the punishment for not having money is to get charged for it to make up for the money you didn't have, so that you can pay money you already didn't have on top of the money you're accruing to make up for you not having any money. But oh yeah, we can just will our way out of it. We just need to make better decisions. Like, I don't know, maybe the decision is not have a bank. Oh wait, I need to be able to access the money that I get from my job. So then I have to pay a bunch of fees on, oh right, cashing my check. So how do you avoid getting absolutely fucking destroyed because you're poor? The answer? You don't. Bond debt in USA is fucking cruel and unusual. Oh yeah. I don't have any of that. Should have spent some of that money on bootstraps. Exactly. You and modernism made the same joke. But I credit both of you because you're beautiful.
Debt is bad. Thank your lucky stars you've never dealt with a payday or car title lender. These.
By the way, this is a big reason why we have taken so long to get back on our feet. We, at one point, just before her surgery, were almost out of this problem. We started pulling out loans because the company that's supposed to pay Glam's benefits in the last month and a half decided to not pay her because they felt she should have been off for less amount of time because they didn't consider postpartum depression a disability. Yep. Payday loans can have over 1,000% interest, which is dumb as fuck. Yeah. What's interesting about the ones that you do like on the apps, which is where we fall into the trap, is they're not as bad, but they're still bad. One of the ones we use most does is they charge you either $5.99, between $5.99 or $7.99 per time that you expedite the payment to your account. And then when your paycheck hits, they take out every single one of those charges. So that's per charge per time you expedite it, which when you're trying to take out that money, you need to expedite it. You need that money now. Now, sure, you could do it ACH for free, but that could take anywhere from 2 to 5 days. And you're swirling the drain. So yeah, that's a whole thing that's going on. And I maxed out both my credit cards in the process. Credit cards were just supposed to be for, you guessed it, emergencies, and we had an emergency, and now we can't get out of that debt. And we're one of the luckier ones. The amount of money we make is over the median amount. It's twice the median amount for my city. as a family. And we're still struggling. How do you think anyone else in this country is able to survive? Yeah, you're not supposed to have emergencies. Exactly, Texture.
Businesses are often the only recourse for people without credit cards, and their interest rates reach upwards of 800% annually.
Not only does it cost more to borrow and spend money, but what you spend it on is often more expensive. If you have to feed a family on a tight budget, buying in bulk at a supermarket is usually the best option, but not one available to many poor people. Even if they had the cash on hand to buy weeks worth of food in one trip, how is someone who depends on public transportation supposed to get it home? On their lap on the bus?
Big food retailers, ones with enough purchasing power to offer low prices, are notorious for avoiding poor neighborhoods, and people who live in these so-called food deserts often lack the mobility to cruise around town bargain hunting. Instead, they're stuck with local convenience and corner stores whose prices are much higher. Or they rely on fast food, which can seem cheap in comparison, but is actually more expensive than cooking at home.
Adding in a thing that I doubt they're going to get into, because most of us are incredibly overworked, we also don't have time to prepare meals. We're also incredibly tired from our employment because of how much we work. So when you get home, you don't feel like cooking food because you're tired. And the human body is not endless. So you just want the quickest and easiest thing for you, and guess what that is? Well, there you go. There you go. That's the quickest and easiest way. Is it more expensive? Absolutely it is. But do you know what else it is? Quick. And when you remove the ability of people to have time to have any sort of even belief in a work-life balance, this is something that's going to eat into you. And another thing that they kind of brushed at, you know, how they talked about that 3% charge, you know, how you get if you withdraw $100 from the account and it's not a connected account, they charge you like $3 for the processing fee. And how it's only 3% if you remove $100, but if you remove 20, it's 15%. That math works for just about everything. All the necessities that you pay for are a larger percentage of your income than it is for rich people. They may pay the exact same amount for it, but it is eating into their income far less. Your groceries might be 30% of your overall income per month, if not 40 or 50. Which doesn't leave much room for paying, you know, bills that you need to pay in order to have housing, maintain heat, have water, other necessities you need. So what would be 30% of your income would be like 0.3% of someone who made even 40 grand more than you, 50 grand more. Like if they made 6 digits per year, be far less. Because they don't have to think anything of it. It's just groceries. It's just what you do. I don't have the freezer or space to buy bulk like I really want to. That's another thing. Poor people live in smaller houses. They have less places to store things. $3.99 Twitch sub is about 40% of my daily income. So no, I can't sub every stream I watch. Do I need to not watch streams? Exactly. And that's why I'm very forgiving of people who can't afford to sub. I completely understand it, and I always know that there is likely 1 or 2 people in chat who would be willing most of the time to give subs to people.
I blame Obama.
James, thank you for the $20 dono. I appreciate that so much. Plus outdated appliances poor people have. My disposable is I'm guessing that's disposal. Quite one. Thank you for gifting a sub to Jamie. Anonymous, thank you for gifting a sub to Polly. See, there we go. We're all of a sudden one away from the goal. Cool. With whopping about 10 minutes left. And yeah, you're right, Pick. That's absolutely a large part of it. Don't forget cars. You buy an older car, which will cost more in the long run because it's used. Somebody's already done damage to it, and you have no idea what's left on the car, what's going to break next. And if you get unlucky and that car has a lot of stuff that's about to go wrong with it, guess what? That just costs you more money than if you were able to get a new car. Hey, Chokin. Came back from demo. There we go. Sir Yogi-wan, thank you for gifting a sub to Second Knobs. I haven't seen Second Knobs in a minute, too. There it is. There's a sub goal. We got it. We hit it. Let's see if we can hit it tomorrow, too. Being poor is very expensive. Absolutely, James. It's good to see you, by the way. We need to talk sometime. I'm trying to find time to hit you up and talk about some things. It's not letting me share the pictures on Discord. What? Or you buy a new car and your insurance goes up $100 a month. I mean, and that depends. That really depends. If you live in a rural area, it doesn't really do that. If you live in, the inner city like most people do, your insurance goes up like hundreds of dollars. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that happens too. You think that doesn't eat into your amount of money? And by the way, that inner city is about all you can afford to, live in. My insurance went up a shit ton when I moved to St. Louis. Absolutely. All right.
To say nothing of the long-term health risk.
Oh, shit. We're just going to go ahead and just say fuck it to the sub goal and just go past it, aren't we?
Rent can also be more expensive.
Oh, no worries. No
Most
worries.
landlords require
I
a
appreciate
security
you, Joe.
deposit between $500 and $1,000 to move in. An impossible sum for people barely scraping by. And in that case, your only option other than homelessness.
Yeah, I like the little fat sea lion. He's a good boy.
Might be a low-end extended stay motel, which typically don't require deposits.
Yes, Redacted. Thank you for telling me that.
But cost way more than an apartment in the long run, and they often lack amenities like kitchen.
Russo, who was also one of the people, said, "When the people shall have no more to eat, they will eat the rich." Yeah. So that's one big reason why I've lightened on eat the rich quite a bit. I try to tell people you want to be careful with it because it kind of makes us look not quite serious. But here's the thing. When we literally can't afford to do that, do you expect people to just say fuck it and starve? This is what I was talking about the other day with Ungovernable when I was sitting here talking about how these are financial barriers. When he's talking about going out and living in the woods, yeah, what's cool? The cool thing about living in the woods and not being subject to any form of capitalism, you can knock down a tree when you want to. And there, you have wood. All the wood you need. More than enough. More than what you would get if you showed up to Home Depot with your magic paper to hand to them in order to then get access to less wood per value. And he said, that's freedom. Because somebody else did all that labor in order to make that wood. And if you don't have the magic paper, you don't get any. And this still just right over his head. Right over his head. Even where I live, where everyone born here is being priced out of renting and owning homes, they still pay less than this. What do you mean? Less? I'm confused. In Canada? I heard that Canada's housing prices have exploded too. Like, it's, especially in Ontario. Egley, you could answer this for me. You're a resident Canadian. Can't think of who else is Canadian in here.
Appliances and laundry that save apartment dwellers time and money.
They say time is money, and the less money you have, the more time you have to spend on everyday tasks. Waiting at the bus stop, waiting at the laundromat, waiting at overcrowded clinics and public offices. This leaves much less free time to take care of one's family, pick up extra work, or strategize a way out of poverty.
It gets worse. Inflation, the general increase in prices, tends to hit things like food, gas, and rent the hardest. The lower your income, the greater percentage of it goes to these costs.
Are you ready? I thought you were in Pennsylvania. Oh, Kappa. God damn it. You can't find a house in Vancouver for under 700,000. Fuck.
Person will see their year-over-year expenses go up at a higher rate than a wealthy person.
All these pressures take a toll on one's psyche that only makes things worse. Imagine having to...
Canada's just there to make Detroit look worse. Specifically Windsor.
To constantly make tough decisions about where to spend your last few dollars. Pay the water bill or buy food for dinner. Put gas in the car or see the doctor. This relentless burning of mental energy leads to a deterioration in the quality of one's judgment, a phenomenon psychologists call decision fatigue. It's why someone might visit a payday lender when they know it's a bad idea. They're so exhausted that they'll settle for a quick fix, even if...
Or ungovernable, why they might pursue drugs in order to dull the pain of the situation they're in, or why they would gamble in the hopes that they might be able to win money in order to get ahead. This was the thing I was trying to tell you, that you just refuse to even acknowledge is reality. People don't do drugs just because they want to get high. Can I ban him? No. Nah. Because he's polite. He's polite. He's done nothing to be worth a ban. And if he comes across this, I want him to come across stuff like this. I want him to listen. Because he has no fundamental understanding of what it is to be in poverty. He just says make better decisions. What decisions can people make besides don't eat, don't drink water, don't leave your house because you can't afford a car, don't rent, while also not being able to buy a house? Like, what decisions can you actually make? The reason you were not able to answer me on any time I asked that isn't because you're not a life coach or you're not a financial advisor. It's because there is no answer. There's a system set up, working as is, as it's supposed to fuck over poor people. And as one of those people who lives in a city that is full of those people who are at my level and way worse. I mean, type in Google right now, what is the poorest city in the US at this moment? I live in it. As one of those people, I can tell you hands down what the problem is. And it doesn't have anything to do with our decision making. Our decision making is fine. You should be allowed to make mistakes in the choices you make financially and still not, risk not being able to survive. Like I said, like I said to him again, not paying your taxes results in you going to prison. where you're still provided food, shelter, and water. Whereas going out and living in the woods gives you access to, well, excuse me, that wasn't the example. Whereas continuing to live under the system, continuing to be poor, and then hitting zero and choosing to quit your job, a thing that he says you can freely do. You can just quit your job if you don't like it and find better work. Quitting your job leaves you without food, without home, without water. It's a bigger threat to your life than going to prison. And you denied that. You can literally die from starvation, from from being too cold. Literally die from not having water, from thirst, because you can't afford it. You can die from these things. And in prison, you're provided that. It's the bare minimum, and it still fucking sucks. So don't sit there and tell me that you have more freedom by quitting your job than if you quit paying taxes and went to prison. I know which one I'd prefer. But you know what I prefer about that? If I was actually able to, earn enough to survive. Not constantly have to be stressed out. Having to go over every single decision that I know is going to result in the same shit. I'm going to get fucked. And I'm not going to get ahead. When you have the majority of the people in this country trying to do everything they can just to get to stability and not able to get there, you do not have freedom. You have a slave state. It's just not a slave state as you would like to define it, because you feel like you're getting ahead, which, good for you. But the rest of us, the plurality of society, your message to us is no answer except for some bland statement about decision making that you yourself have no solution for. Your solution is to say, do a thing generally. Just saying, well, you should take action. Well, what kind of action? Don't ask me that, but that's my solution. You might as well just tell people to just quit being poor. It makes just as much sense. And it has nothing to do with your ability or access to certain education. In fact, let's say you did have access to that education. Do you not want to know what those people would still say? No different than what you said. They would have no answer. And the reason you can't admit that is because it eats away at your fundamental understanding of the world. And that sucks. It absolutely sucks. Finding out that you have sold yourself to a thing, an ideology, a belief system that you've been taught your entire life, and finding out it's entirely wrong, doing that sort of self-examination, man, it sucks. Ask any person who used to be liberal and is now a fucking socialist. Hi, I'm one. I used to believe in this system. I used to believe if we just corrected a few things, we could just get better, get good. And it took me time to look around at my environment, see all the people working far harder than the people far richer, far more stable than they are in the fucking suburbs, to go, hang on. Something else is going on here. How old is this system that we complain about in 2021? Well, at this point, older than time itself, if you include feudalism, monarchy, all that, other various forms of systems that are built on oppression, and cycling wealth and provisions to the very top. I think it's time to learn a different way. There are some societies that figured it out and they realized, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should stop looking at everybody as competition. Maybe we need to stop having people lording over everybody and start recognizing that we're all built the same. Put Jeff Bezos as my job, he's probably going to do it worse than me. These people are not unique or all that talented. They're mediocre as fuck. I used the example of the poorest person in Flint versus Jeff Bezos and the poorest person in Flint's ability to become that, because that's the disparity in this country. And there's a whole lot more of the poorest person in Flint than there are Jeff Bezos's, which there is only one. Just because you can, under very specific, small, unbelievably microscopic, quantum level small chances of pursuing the ability to be Jeff Bezos, just because it exists, doesn't mean that that's enough to actually bounce a whole entire system off of, and that you expect people to continue to want to live under. Eventually, people are going to say, this is fucked, and I'm done. That's how that happens. That's how that happens. Hey, it's Mark and Eli. I hope you're doing well. Hope you liked the video. If you liked it, why don't you like, comment, and subscribe? My child may stop picking on me. Oh!